course, sort of with one of the basic type constructors we have, which is object types, you know, x:(t) and y:(u) up there. But over time, we have added more and more of these type constructors. We've added union types, intersection types, index access, and so forth. And I'll give you some examples of what these are and how it is that this makes it a very different type system. So at the very bottom of JavaScript and TypeScript, we have values. And that's sort of where JavaScript's runtime dynamic type system and TypeScript's static type system meet. They meet sort of at the bottom where there are values. JavaScript programs are all about producing values and writing logic that can make new values out of existing values, right? And there are groups of values in there, like strings and numbers and trues and falses and whatever. Now, in TypeScript, all of these values are also types. There's a type called 42, and it has one possible value, the value 42. And these are called unit types, and everything sort of comes from that. And then there are different categories of types. So the string type is actually all unit types that are strings, and the number category is all unit types that are numbers. And then we have type constructors that allow you to make more complex types out of that, like true or false. That is actually exactly the same as the built-in Boolean type. It has two possible values, and it's a union of either true or false, right? And that's sort of how everything builds up, if you will. Here's another type, 0 or false or undefined, you know, and you can make types in any combination you want. This is very unlike C# or Java, where everything is sort of single-rooted and there's a base class and whatever. That's not how this works. This is really more like reasoning about sets of possible values. That's really what the type system is doing. And of course, it gets particularly interesting here, like you can build types like string or number or undefined, right? And union types are this deep enabler that we use in control flow-based type analysis because we understand now what JavaScript statement constructs, what effects they have on types. If, for example, I have a variable whose type is string or number undefined, say it's x, call it x, and I say if x, open curly, well, we know that that construct removes the type undefined because that would not execute. And that means we can restrict the union type down to string and number. And that's this narrowing that control flow-based type analysis does. And that's really, in a sense, where the type checker magically knows what values could your variables have, and it can prove, you know, this is the deep enabler for non-nullable types, for example, and many other features in the language. We also have this feature called intersection types, which are, in a sense, just the opposite of union types. Imagine we have two types, A:(string and B:(string). When you define an object type A:(string, you're really just saying this is any object that has a property named A of type string and then some other set of properties that is unconstrained. So you're basically dealing with an infinitely large number of possible objects, but they all have a property of type A that is of type string, or named A. And the same for B. But now we get intersection types, which is, you know, those objects that have an A and a B. And some people have sort of commented, why is it that when I intersect two object types that I end up with a union of the property names? Well, it's because you're actually constraining it more. For every property declaration you add, there are fewer possible values, right? The most possible values is curly curly. There are no constraints on any other properties. And the more declarations you add, the more you're actually constraining the values, and the smaller the set gets. And that's why it's an intersection. So this is sort of the mental state that if you want to understand the terminology of why the type system looks this way. Now, over time then, we've added a bunch of interesting new type constructors like index and index access types were added in the last year or so. And this is the ability now to